All right, hello once again, everybody. Welcome to Sports and Money. I'm Ben Parker. Thank you for being with us today. We're looking at the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to take a look at what is really the beginning of the end of an era for the Seattle Seahawks. They're going to say goodbye to some players on defense that we've known for a long time, watched compete at a really high level for a long time. And they're starting to remake that defense. In the process, though, what they're trying to do, the Seattle Seahawks, they're trying not to become irrelevant. They're trying to do what I think the Steelers have done over the past few years, and that is switch gears. You're going to see some things switch up, but they're going to try to keep winning while they're morphing. So this is really a long metamorphosis that the Seattle Seahawks are going through. I want to start with the cap space that they've got for the upcoming season. Right now, as this video is being made, they have about $9.3 million left to spend under the salary cap. Now, about $6 million of that is going to get spent on their draft class. If they don't trade for any more draft picks or trade them away, about $6 million of that will be used to sign their draft picks. That'll leave about a little over $3 million to maybe pick up another free agent, not a big-time free agent, but somebody to add to the team. And of course, the Seattle Seahawks, like all the other teams in the NFL, will be doing all kinds of many small changes leading all the way up to and going through the 2018 season. That's not anything new. Now, I want to look at the way they've got the money spread out and why they let go of Richard Sherman and Michael Bennett. Those are the two big names that we saw lead the Seahawks this offseason. If you're a Seahawks fan, you hate to see those two guys go, especially Richard Sherman, who just not only anchored the whole defense, but really nailed down that cornerback spot, could really line up over the course of 7 seasons, could really line up against just about anybody in the league. I don't know that anybody was more of a face for that defense, for that whole team really, than Richard Sherman. So watching him go, if you're a Seahawks fan, is not easy. Watching him go play for the 49ers is even more difficult. But I want to take just a bird's eye view today and look at why they've had to make some of these decisions. I want to start off with the balance that you see between offense and defense. On offense, you've got Russell Wilson, huge cap number, $23.8 million for the upcoming year. Next guy down, wide receiver, Doug Baldwin, pretty stout cap number, $11.9 million, but it's not horrible. Then you've got two guys on the offensive line, Dwayne Brown and Justin Britt, pulling down $9.8 million and $6.2 million. But after that, that's 4 players. 4 players who are making really good money for the Seahawks. And of course, Russell Wilson has that huge number. It's not huge for a quarterback, but it's a huge cap number nonetheless. You've got 4 players there on offense that you've invested quite a bit of money into. Everybody else on offense is either making about $3 million per season or less. So they're just not that huge a decision whether or not to let them come or go. On defense is really where the Seahawks, in spite of Russell Wilson being there, and in spite of whoever else they've had on offense over the years, the defense is where they've really made their championships and their victories and their wins, and that's where they've invested the money over the past few seasons. You see Bobby Wagner right here leading it off at $13.6 million. You have Earl Thomas right here at $10.4 million. Cam Chancellor going to be making $9.6 million. KJ Wright making $8.2 million. And after him, defensive end Cliff Averill pulling in $7.6 million. In addition to those 5 players who are all pulling in healthy cap numbers, you also had Richard Sherman, who was pulling down about $13 million for the upcoming season, and Michael Bennett, who overall was going to be looking at about $10 to $11 million coming up. The Seattle Seahawks they were able to save about $17 million combined in letting go of Richard Sherman and Michael Bennett. They took a bit of a dead cap hit, about $7 million, to let those 2 players go, but they got a little bit in return from Michael Bennett. Richard Sherman, they just decided to let go straight up. Of course, he went over and signed almost immediately with the 49ers. Now, why are the Seahawks doing this? Basically, Seattle has kept this defensive group together for as long as they could. This was a once, not in a lifetime defense, but this was a once in a decade kind of a defense. And there's no question about it for the Seattle Seahawks that this defense was the hallmark of their championship year and their Super Bowl run after that. Even though the one they lost against the Patriots, the defense was what really set their standard. And that's where they've invested the money. That's where they've heavily invested the money. Not just these 5 guys, but they were also paying Richard Sherman and they were paying Michael Bennett. Now what's happened over the years, not during the first 5 years or so of them building this and putting this together, but over the past couple of seasons, 2 to 3 seasons, 2 things are happening. Number one, all of these guys' salaries, all of them, are gradually getting larger. A lot of teams are trying to balance their contracts out these days from one year to the next, but even so, you find a lot of contracts that are back-ended to some degree. And that makes it more tempting as the guy gets older to let him go because the dead cap hit is smaller and his salary cap number is getting bigger. So all of these guys' contracts, if the Seattle Seahawks don't sign anybody in free agency, they're automatically in 2018 having to pay bigger numbers to everybody because those contracts are growing. So that means their financial obligations are getting larger for everybody. Also, the second thing that's happening for the Seattle Seahawks, that defense is gradually getting older. It's not showing up all at once. It's not like they're falling apart. It's not like they can't play defense anymore. It's not like any one of these guys isn't worth having on a team. You saw very quickly Michael Bennett was wanted to be traded for. Richard Sherman signed with the 49ers immediately. Richard Sherman probably could have picked who he wanted to play for next. He picked the 49ers. But the point being, these guys are still good. They're still worth having. They're still worth paying money to. But gradually, each of these players, for the most part, a lot of them are getting older, and you're seeing a very small and subtle decline. So what you have the finances really starting to settle in on Seattle. You can only pay all these guys this kind of money for so long. Also, you have age starting to creep up. And if you don't address it now, if you're the Seattle Seahawks, if you try to keep this group together for another 2 seasons, then you're just going to have to blow the entire thing up in 2 seasons because you're not going to be able to have anybody on the payroll who can actually play. They're all going to get old at the same time. Your defense in 2 or 3 seasons will be in tatters. So could they keep this group together if they wanted to? Yes, they could definitely do that. But what they're trying to do is keep winning for the next 5 to 7 seasons. And in theory, you do that with Russell Wilson. So what I suspect you'll see is a shift from the amount of money, and this is not a big leap, you're already seeing it, a shift from the amount of money that they spend on defense invested more in the offense. Now, we're already seeing that. That's why you let go of Richard Sherman, which, by the way, let's discuss Richard Sherman for a second. He can still play, but his numbers, his production had fallen off a little bit over the past couple of seasons. Same thing for Michael Bennett, can still play, but perhaps not at quite the high level that he was 2 or 3 seasons ago. Certainly Richard Sherman has not shown the ability. Now, can these guys get back to that top level? Possibly. I'm not here to say that they can't. Richard Sherman may very well get to play at an elite level for the next couple of seasons. He may step his game back up. Same thing for Michael Bennett on the Eagles. It may be perfect for Bennett to go play for the Eagles, and he may have just an incredible year. Not saying that these guys can't continue to play, but these are decisions that the Seahawks have to make. Who are you going to let go? They've got to make decisions about Wagner and Thomas and Chancellor and Wright and Averill. So what you're going to see is, over the next couple of years, this is not done. This is not a one-year project. You don't do this in one off season. You don't fix this in one off season. Over the 2019 off season, you're going to see a couple more of these guys go off this defense. You can almost bet your money on it that you're going to see a couple more of these guys go in the 2019 off season. And then when 2020 rolls around, you're going to watch a couple more of those guys go. And what's going to happen is a shift from the amount of money that the Seahawks invest in the defense. It's going to be invested in the offense. Why is that? Because you have Russell Wilson. If you're going to pay him the money, and if the defense is not going to be as stout as it used to be simply because of age, and it's not, even if they kept all of these guys, kept Richard Sherman, kept Michael Bennett, the defense is gradually going to just not be as good. So if you're going to pay Russell Wilson this kind of money, and if the defense can't be what it used to be, then you might as well start getting Russell Wilson some weapons, getting him some offensive line help. You've already started seeing a little bit of that by them signing Ed Dixon, the tight end. Not a huge deal, but still a weapon for Russell Wilson to use. And you'll see that more. And you'll probably see the Seahawks try to draft pretty defense heavy in order to try to get some youth on that defense. Because, listen, the guys who are there can still play. It's still a solid defense. They'll still be able to produce. The idea is that you're going to still have a solid defense, but that you're going to try to upgrade the offense and give Russell Wilson some more help. So that's what the Seahawks are looking at. They're going to keep doing this. This is a multi-year project. And I referenced the Pittsburgh Steelers because you saw the Pittsburgh Steelers do this several seasons ago. For years and years, the Steelers hung their hat on the defensive side of the football and on Ben Roethlisberger's playmaking ability. Gradually, over the years, you saw that defense get old. And what the Steelers did, they took their money and they started investing it in the offense. Guys like Antonio Brown, guys like Le'Veon Bell, the offensive line. The Pittsburgh Steelers put a lot of money and draft picks into the offensive line, and they really built up the offensive line. Now, it has not resulted in another Super Bowl victory or appearance for the Steelers, but they have been relevant. They've continued to win every single year, and that has largely been because the offense has been there and producing at a very high level. The Steelers have managed to stay relevant, but it took them a few seasons to morph from that defensive-heavy side of the football over into the offense. I think that's what you're going to see the Seattle Seahawks do. It won't happen all at once. Over the next season or two, that's what they're going to try to do. It's a metamorphosis from this heavy defensive invested side of the football over into the offensive side of the football. John Schneider and Pete Carroll, I know they don't like watching Richard Sherman go. I doubt they like watching Michael Bennett go. These are hard decisions. This isn't something that's fun for them, but this is what they're facing if they're going to try to keep this team relevant for the next 5 or 6, 7 seasons. If they're going to keep winning, in theory, Russell Wilson is young enough to where he can be playing at a pretty good level for the next 7 seasons or so, you would think. So this is the kind of decisions that they're having to make in order to make sure that the Seahawks keep winning for the foreseeable future and not just for the next season or two. This is what they're having to do. All right, that's it for the Seattle Seahawks. We'll probably put out a couple more specific videos looking at some specific things they did. This is just a bird's eye view of it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ben Parker. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the views. If you have any comments, good, bad, or otherwise, please send them in. We appreciate the feedback. See you next time on Sports and Money. Thank you. Bye.